Hey everyone, welcome back to Singularity. I have already started this event on my own time, since this is one that I have done in the past before, and I am somewhat satisfied with the progress that I've made here. I have currently 5 out of 12 of the achievement things, and it looks like I can actually get some of the stuff here as well. So I will just go ahead and get that while I can, which is very exciting. Here's the guy that I've got going on. And okay, looks like this is pretty good for now. I have got many things to do here, because there is a lot that I need to earn for both having more of the red and the blue, because having the different units is important. And yeah, everything is starting to get really expensive here. So I would like ideally to finish all of these, but first I should read the things that I do have. So I think this might mean that I've had this one 3 times, but I'm not sure. So the nexus: every nerve in the body connects to the brain, the center of cognitive function, which is pretty important. Okay, and then so we have many things to read. So the heart, the blood's centralized organ, pumps approximately 1 gallon of oxygen-rich blood every minute. Long viewed as a symbol of life, some ancient cultures considered it as the center of thought and emotion, which is interesting. I still remember in 6th grade learning that in Egypt they thought that the brain was what made mucus, and so they would just scrape it out and get rid of it, which we found pretty hilarious. But I guess if you don't really understand anatomy at that time, that is not the most illogical conclusion. Okay, so veins. Blood's journey begins in the veins, which receive oxygen or blood from the body's organs. This venous blood is carried back to the heart, where it can begin the process of oxygenation, and then blood. The human body is fueled by the vital fluids flowing, not floating, through it, composed of cells suspended in a liquid called plasma. Blood carries oxygen and nutrients throughout the body. So many things to read. Come back here. Okay. And then we have right atrium. Before blood can be sent to the body's organs, it must be enriched with oxygen. The heart's chambers facilitate this process, with oxygen-poor blood traveling through the right side and oxygen-rich blood through the left. And then the heart's ventricles are pumps that push blood to its next destination. In the case of the right ventricle, it receives blood from the right atrium and transfers it to the lungs. And then there's so many things. Okay. Brain, 3 times larger than that of a chimpanzee. The human brain alone contains billions of neurons. It sends and receives the electrical signals that enable thought, emotion, and bodily function. I'm not doing these in order because I don't remember the order I unlocked them in, but that's fine. Okay. Frontal lobe. Personality, decision-making, and overall thought processes are mostly controlled by the frontal lobe. It is also the largest of the lobes, likely reflecting the importance of cognitive function for survival. Temporal lobe, smell, and hearing are managed by the temporal lobe, which also regulates short and long-term memory. Could this be why songs and smells linger in the brain for so long? That's an interesting theory. Also, I think it's the frontal lobe, or maybe it's more than one thing, but they found that there are some parts of the brain that in scans of people with different neurotypes, particularly the study I saw was looking at ADHD, there is actually a physical difference, which I think is kind of cool. That it's like actually a visual thing, and it's not something where people can just say like, oh, it's all just a mental thing. I mean, it kind of is, but it's also like physical. Anyway, parietal lobe, I think is how you pronounce that. The lobe in the middle of the brain is responsible for processing spatial awareness. It also transmits the signals that make the body move and is responsible for interpreting pain, touch, and taste. Occipital lobe, found in the back of the brain. The occipital lobe oversees all things vision. Eyes initially see upside down, but the occipital lobe makes sense of these images so that humans perceive the world right side up. Which is fascinating, because there was a person who tried to wear those glasses that flip everything upside down, and then after a while, their eyes and brain just like automatically reversed it back so it looked right side up, which is an interesting study in how it can adapt, which is kind of cool. Okay, eyes. Light hitting the eye is interpreted by neurons called cones and rods. Cones react to high levels of light and provide the ability to see color. Rods work in low light, contributing to night vision and peripheral sight. And then brainstem, serving as the gateway for all bodily functions. The brainstem connects the spinal cord and the brain. It governs automatic processes like breathing, heartbeat, and reflexes. Spinal cord. The heart circulates blood under the direction of the brain. These commands need a pathway from the brain to reach the heart's nerves. The spinal cord provides this connection, tying the brain to every nerve in the body. Nerves, many nerves. Okay. A network of neurons runs through the body, connecting with the spinal cord. This network controls everything from heartbeat to the movement of one's arms and legs. Endocrine system. Glands of the endocrine system are organs that produce essential hormones. These chemicals carry messages through your bloodstream, instructing your body to perform specific functions. There's so much to read. I'm talking way too fast. Okay. Hypothalamus. The endocrine system is largely guided by an almond-sized gland in the brain. The hypothalamus tells other glands when to release hormones which regulate mood, hunger, thirst, sleep patterns, and sexual function. Pituitary. Directly connected to the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland acts as second in command in the endocrine system. Upon receiving cues from its superior, it releases the hormones necessary to support its goals. Okay. Adrenal. 2 glands sit atop each kidney, producing a variety of hormones. Most notably, they produce adrenaline when a human is stressed. This is also known as the fight or flight response. Gonads. The male testes and female ovaries are the primary reproductive organs of humans. They secrete the hormones testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone, all of which are responsible for sexual development and reproduction. Okay. Skeleton. A baby is born with around 300 bones in their body. These bones fuse with age, forming the adult skeleton, averaging 206 bones. it is the framework that supports the human body. Okay. Bones. In the skeletal system, different types of bones hold specialized functions. Flat bones found in the skull and ribs protect vital organs. Long bones in places like the arms and legs support weight and allow movement. Okay. Bone marrow. A spongy material inside your bones produces new cells that circulate through the body. While every bone contains marrow, by adulthood only a few, such as the spine and pelvis, produce significant amounts of blood. And then the new one. Muscles. Voluntary and involuntary movement are both enabled by stretchy fibers that can contract and flex. Whether a person is taking a walk or digesting food, the muscular system allows the body to function. Very cool. Okay. Now that we've caught up on all of that, so much of that, I am going to go over to these other ones to see how those things are going, because I have not touched them at all since the last time I recorded. So hopefully I can make some more progress. I feel like in Beyond, certain things will still be very expensive, and Haumea is gonna take probably quite a long time. But it's still nice to make any progress at all. Everything is getting expensive here as well, but that's okay because I have plenty of time. These are not timed, so not too worried about it. This is such an insanely high number. Okay. Oh my gosh. 7 away, but of course they're gonna be the most expensive things. Perfect. Okay. Now that that has been set up, I really need large things to finish. Oh my gosh. This is insanely expensive, but also I'm getting closer, and this is the very last objective that I have, so hopefully within the next few recordings, depending on when I do them, I can actually finish this one. and then go to 13, which I'm sure will be even more expensive. But yeah, that's getting exciting, because whenever I get close to actually completing stuff in Beyond, it's always really, really rewarding, because it is just so insanely expensive at all times now. So yeah, very, very chaotic, but there's so much going on, and I kind of want to rank up more of other things, but I also want to save up for the actual things that I need, so it's a little bit conflicting. It's satisfying how fast these ones are increasing, though, because I feel like it has been just so much that is, like, when I was doing it on my own, it would take so long, and it looked like the numbers weren't even changing at all. But now you can actually see the numbers physically moving up, which is a nice sign. Also, it's really fun how the background is turning into the different types of whatever thing it's mainly talking about, like nerves here, blood here, muscle fiber here. It's really fun. Muscle cells look so strange, though. And I've always thought that, but also seeing them like this in this game, they're so weird looking. Also, I have enough time in this event that I do want to try to record at least one other video during this particular event, because I think that it's interesting, and this is one of the ones that I've never actually finished. So I would love to be able to do that. But now I'm also kind of curious because of that thing where the this has a 3. Sort of seems to imply that I've had it 3 times, because that is also 2. That's a different one. That's 3, that's 2, that's 1, because I've only done that once. Yeah, I think it is showing the different amounts of time that I've gotten them. And yeah, so I did finish this one, so that makes sense that it would have. That's kind of cool that they're actually letting it add up. I think it is increased more having it by 3 than by 2. Yeah, I think so, which I think is kind of cool. Also, the philosophy one, math one is coming back. I don't like math very much. It's kind of interesting learning about it in this, but as an actual subject to study academically, it is my least favorite. Or maybe history, but I like those or I dislike those for different reasons. And especially actually now that I've taken a college history class, looking back on like grade school history, it makes me actually hate it even more, because I've taken several classes in college or university that have kind of emphasized for me how completely whitewashed at least US history is, and I know that there's a lot of other countries where there are parts of their history that have also been really whitewashed. But in the US, it's kind of like disgustingly whitewashed. And I feel like there's a lot of times in history classes where an issue will be brought up of this thing happened, but it's over now. And I feel like the really big one that I think of a lot that I took in African American history, it wasn't really history, but it was an African American theater class, and it was talking about reading all of these different plays by African American playwrights, and most of them were written also for an African American audience. And it was really insightful into a very different world than I grew up in, because I'm not part of that culture. But one of the things that almost all of the stories had in common was how racism and racial persecution are still so prevalent and have never really faded from American society. And it's not necessarily as severe as it was during like slavery and total segregation, but it's still a really big issue, and like to this day there's still a ton of violence against African American people, and a ton of stuff where it's like history classes that I took in like middle school, elementary school, high school, they all kind of seemed like, oh, this happened, but it's over. And it's not. And that part was just kind of eye-opening to see so many things where it's like, all of the history that I've been learning is not only super whitewashed, it's super male-focused, and there's like a couple of notable female people that are mentioned in some of the history, but most of it is very male-centric and told in a way where it's like there's one side to this, and that's not how history works at all. And honestly, I feel like learning about some of the female people in history were way more interesting than like the male war heroes or whatever that we learned about. And also learning about other cultures' histories, I think, was much more interesting than American history. But like, oh, the way they teach it, I don't like how they teach it in most of the schooling that I've had that has taught it. I think it's done in a way that can be kind of damaging and problematic. Because I feel like that sort of mentality of like, oh yeah, this was really bad, but it's over now and we fixed it and made everything better, it kind of takes away from all the work that's left to do. That, okay, yes, that isn't actively happening the way that it was anymore, but there's still a lot of harm and damage. And I think studying environmental science, one of the things that we talk about pretty regularly, that's kind of something that we look at from a lot of different perspectives is not only indigenous peoples and cultures, but also the knowledge that they have and the way that they care for and respect the environment in ways that other people who are not part of that culture maybe don't. And I think learning more about that, especially, it just shows how much history completely, like the history classes, completely gloss over how damaging Americans were for the indigenous people during like colonization and stuff like that. And I don't know where this rant came from. I don't know how I started on this rant, but talking about subjects I don't like and how I don't like history. But yeah, like, grade school history is so biased. And I highly encourage anyone, if you are currently taking a history class or if you feel like you might relate to this, like, not necessarily take more classes if that's not something that you're necessarily pursuing or into, but like, look at things from other perspectives. Because some of the stuff that I have seen from perspectives that are not just this whitewashed lens of what history was have been so insightful. And especially, I think, reading the plays that we read was very, very insightful into African American culture in a way that I feel like a history class wouldn't have conveyed. Because, again, I'm not part of that culture, and even though I know people who are, as an outsider, I would never have that experience of living that culture. But being able to read it in a play where we would delve into what might be sort of driving the characters' decisions or things like that was just super, like, eye-opening, but also in a way where it still felt like we were able to get more of a sense of being able to relate to it, even though none of us who were not part of that culture or race could ever fully understand it. It gave us at least a little bit more of a sense of, like, wow, this is something that these people or this character is having to think about every day. And that is a representation of these people and how they, some of them at least, have to think and behave in the society we live in. And it's sad and kind of made a lot of the Caucasian people in the class look at some of our classmates who are people of color and be like, we are so sorry for what people of our race are doing and still doing. And it just kind of sucks. I wish people could just respect each other more. And I know that that's, like, sounds so simple, but I don't know. I've gotten onto weird rants today, but yeah. I don't know necessarily where I was going with that, but just thinking about how I feel like history is taught in a way that can, even if it's not trying to be misinformation, it can kind of end up being misinformation, because it can end up showing one perspective as fact when there are actually quite a few perspectives. And even though I feel like people talk about like a right side and a wrong side of history, and I do think that there are certain things where if you're persecuting a certain demographic or causing a ton of harm to people for personal gain or something like that, I would argue you are more on the wrong side. I also would argue that there's more than two sides, and that all of them have a ton of nuance and a ton of different factors that led to them. And while some of them I feel like are more valid than others, I feel like history is not taught like that. But also, I am at a point now where I think that this is a good place to leave this and just let stuff accumulate. I've been doing kind of shorter recordings of this particular game recently just because so much of it is so expensive now that it's just very time consuming to try to get progress done, and I don't want to just sit here for like an hour just waiting for stuff. But I definitely am going to try to do one more recording at least of this event before it ends. And I'm excited. I think that it's probably about as far, maybe a little less, than I've gotten into this one before, so I'm excited to see more of it. But I think I will get my little ghost things that I know are not technically ghosts, but I don't know what to call them, and then I will leave this here. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you liked it. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!